The technology-focused world we live in has been driven by some truly amazing inventions. But for every incredible idea, there's four more disastrous ones. From a motorized chair to whatever that is. Put on your thinking caps because we're about to check out some of the most useless inventions ever made. The speech stopper. Come on, we all know at least someone that talks too much for their own good. Telling them to just shut up is rude though, isn't it? Well, with the speech jammer gun, you don't have to. This handheld device, invented by Japanese student Kazutaka Kurihara, is designed to stop that annoying friend in their tracks. So how does it work? Simple. Using an inbuilt laser pointer, you aim the speech jammer at whoever you want to silence and pull the trigger. This activates a microphone speaker system inside it, which records everything they're saying and throws it back to them a fraction of a second later. The resulting effect is called delayed auditory feedback. It disrupts the way the person processes their own speech, so much so that it literally renders them speechless. They'll stutter, become confused, and eventually stop talking. This is what it sounds like if you try a tongue twister while experiencing the phenomenon.
Where's the pack of pickled pepper? Where's the pack of pickled peppers?
So it does work. But is it better than just asking the person to be quiet? The inventor seems to think so, going as far as to recommend using it on a long-winded university professor. Here it comes.
有意傾向っていうのは10%ぐらいです。それで効果が
I'm not so convinced. Yeah, the only thing this invention is stopping is my hand reaching for my wallet. Crazy cat ears. I know what you're thinking. Wouldn't life be so much better with a pair of animatronic cat ears strapped to your head? I ask myself the same question every day. Luckily then, Japanese gadget company Neuroware has us covered. The company designed these furry headpieces with a special sensor device inside called an electroencephalogram, or EEG for short. EEGs can detect brain activity, and those attached to this headband supposedly allow the ears to react depending on what mood you're in. Supposedly, however, is the key word here. In practice, EEGs can only really measure general brain activity rather than detect emotion. This means rather than moving based off whether you're feeling happy or sad, the ears will just react to your brain detecting light and sound, which is significantly less impressive. What's more, users have complained that they're heavy and make an annoying buzzing sound. Darn it, I was really hoping they'd got robot cat ears right this time. Psych. I'd rather cough up a furball than wear these freaky fluffers. Don't bicycle. Bicycles have remained largely unchanged since Englishman John Kemp Starley invented the Rover safety bicycle in the late 1800s. And for good reason, the design works. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But budding inventors Tom Hambrock and Jerry Spetter thought they could do one better when they came up with the Fliz bike. It's a bike without pedals or a seat. Right. So how does it work? Well, you strap yourself into a harness on the bicycle's frame, and then you run until you've gathered enough momentum to bring your legs up off the ground. This is all well and good when you're on level ground or going downhill, but trying to go uphill? It'd be impossible, surely. Or at the very least, utterly exhausting. Tom and Jury claim their aim was to make an environmentally friendly mode of transport. But did they forget actual bikes exist or something? I mean, I can't see any advantage to using this over a normal bicycle, aside from maybe avoiding an achy butt. Less a fliz and more of a flop. Sorry, guys. Feckless fingers. Okay, so we've seen some pretty useless stuff so far. What about these latex finger gloves, though? Surely wearing something so horrendously ugly must serve a pretty important purpose, right? Right? Well, it turns out they're designed so you can use your smartphone without leaving any marks on the screen. Because, let's be real here, that's always been such a big problem. Did the inventor of these never think to, wash their hands? And you can also buy silicone variants too, which the manufacturers say are perfect for avoiding friction-related discomfort while playing sports like basketball. But come on, can you imagine LeBron James walking onto the court with a load of these silicone bad boys on his fingers? Who knew there was a way to make basketball uncool? Robo-tail. You've heard of RoboCop, now get ready for Robo-tail. Yep, that's right. Scientists over in Japan have invented a robotic tail that you can strap on like you're some kind of second-rate Spider-Man villain. So far, so weird. Why exactly would you want to strap a giant robot tail to yourself, though? I hear you ask. Well, sadly, the device doesn't turn you into an unstoppable techno-lizard. But it does, not a lot. It's actually designed to improve people's balance and acts like a counterweight, so if you stumble forward, you won't fall over easily. I know what you're thinking. Humans don't need tails to balance. We literally evolved to lose them. However, scientists say the robot tails aren't made for just anybody. They're specifically for the elderly, who are more likely to fall over, which, sure, is true, but we already invented something to help with that thousands of years ago. Walking sticks. And I guarantee a walking stick is a lot cheaper than a mechanical tail, without the strain of having a huge lump of metal attached to your back. Having said that, I would absolutely love to see my grandpa wandering around with one of these on. Just as long as it didn't take control of him and go on a rampant killing spree, of course. Shocking mask. Every kid wants to be an adult until they actually become one, and then they just want to be a kid again. Of course, you can't literally get younger, but people will try pretty much anything to look at, including wearing a creepy electrified mask that's bound to terrify anyone unfortunate enough to walk into the living room. This monstrosity is the Rejuvenik face mask, released back in 1999. It claimed to work by electrocuting your face, causing your muscles to tense and tighten the skin around them, thus reducing wrinkles. Apparently, by donning this mask for just 15 minutes, 3 to 4 times a week, it would work wonders. However, there was never actually any evidence to support this claim. The product wasn't even approved by the FDA, and insanely, never underwent any clinical trials either. What's more, some of the people that bought the morbid mask complained of painful red marks appearing on their face after using it. Ouch, pretty useless as an anti-aging device then. But I might see if I can find one for my next Halloween costume. Air conned. Okay, we've all suffered from smelly feet at some point or another. The solution? You wash them. However, Japanese company Hydrotech have come out with a product they say avoids the issue altogether. So what is it exactly? Why, air-conditioned shoes, of course! This wacky footwear is designed with the vaguely named new filter technology installed in them to remove heat and humidity, keeping your tootsies fresh and clean. Okay, sounds strange, but potentially quite comfy, right? Well, it turns out that new filter technology is just a jargonistic way of saying the shoes have holes in them. Yep, those spiderweb-looking things on the soles are little more than fancy holes, which renders these shoes utterly useless. Sure, they'll let a bit of air in on the rare occasion you don't have your feet on the ground, but on a rainy day, they're probably gonna let a whole load of water in too. And we all know that water plus socks doesn't equal fresh, whiff-free feet, rendering these shoes a $78 waste of materials. I bet anyone that made the mistake of buying them wishes they could filter it out of their memory. Invisiphone. The idea of taking an ordinary object and making it see-through has been oddly alluring to us for a long time, so it's no surprise that many companies are working on transparent phones. When Samsung announced the development of theirs back in 2020, some people got pretty excited at the idea of holding something like this in their hands. The reality, however, is that it'll probably look more like this. This Samsung concept uses an OLED display on a transparent display panel, surrounded by a black border. Now, don't get me wrong, it's kinda cool, I guess, in a really gimmicky way, but seriously, what's the point? If my phone's in the way of something, it's not exactly difficult to move it to see what's behind it, and I'm bad enough with losing things as it is. If I had to try and find something literally designed not to be seen, I'd be hunting forever. I mean, there's no doubt it's impressive tech, but I can't help thinking it'd be much better used elsewhere, like on capes, purely so I can live out my ultimate Harry Potter fantasy. Smart litter. We live in an age where everything from lights to mirrors are getting so-called smart versions, with voice recognition and other technological wizardry built in. But did you think you'd ever hear of a smart cat litter tray? Well, you have now. This outrageously over-engineered puss potty was made by American company Lulu Pet and comes with kitty recognition. So if you have multiple cats, it knows which one is using it. A camera with an infrared sensor and onboard AI profiles each cat and adds it to a database. And then after your flatulent feline goes for a poop, the camera scans and analyzes the feces to check for signs of illness before sending the results to your smartphone. Sure, this is a valiant cause, but most pet owners don't need a high-tech poop scanner to tell when something's wrong with their furry companion. And although the creators of the litter tray boast it can keep up to 15 cat profiles at once, would anyone really want 15 cats all pooping in one tray? Here's a hint, they wouldn't. Especially not when the litter tray sends a video to your phone every time it's used. Ugh. I can't think of a worse notification to open on your phone than another video of little mittens taking a dump. Fancy fork. Some things have been around for thousands of years and have barely changed in design. The fork is one of them. And there's a good reason. It doesn't need to. Ask researchers at Japan's Ochanomizu University, however, and they'll disagree. That's because they've invented get this, a battery-powered fork that makes various noises depending on the food you're eating. Okay. What? It works by passing an electric current up the fork and through the food. When you touch your mouth on the food to eat it, the current passes to you and forms a closed circuit. This generates power, which makes sounds emit from a speaker built into the device. The noise differs depending on the food on the fork because all foods conduct electricity to different degrees. Foods with high water content and acidity level, like potatoes, tomatoes, and onions, conduct electricity quite well, whereas high fat and oily foods, like chocolate, aren't conductive. Now, this is all very clever and everything, but why would you want a fork that makes weird noises? No, the good folk at Ochanomizu University say it encourages kids to try different things they wouldn't have had before. I'm not so sure, though. I can see this easily becoming the most annoying thing you could give to a child. Sit Fit. If you've ever wished you could get rock-solid abs just by sitting in your chair all day, well, join the club. Don't expect your wish to come true, though, which is what the now discontinued Hawaii chair promised. Essentially an office chair with a wiggling motorized seat, it was marketed as a game-changing hack in the world of fitness.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Oh, it feels great on my abs.
I can really feel this working.
Spoiler alert, she couldn't. As well as looking absolutely ridiculous, there's no evidence whatsoever to support the wild claim that it actually helped strengthen your core. And considering this was an office chair, Do you think you'd get more or less work done while being jostled around like you're on the worst theme park ride of all time? Yeah, exactly. It's no surprise, then, that this travesty was only available between 2007 and 2010 before failing miserably. But even though the jingle is entirely untrue, there's no denying its catchiness.
If you can sit, you can get fit. The Hawaii chair.
Crap trap. When you're taking your dog out for a walk, picking up its poop is undoubtedly the worst part of the experience. However, American pet company Poo Trap came up with something that's arguably far worse. Despite referring to this grotesque contraption as a magic poop collector, I can assure you there's nothing magic about it. Simply put, it's a harness you strap around your dog that has an attachment near the mutt's butt where you fasten a poo bag. There's also a separate version without the harness, so when it's time to go poopy, your dog will deliver its brown load directly into the bag rather than on the floor. This theoretically means you're spared the grim task of picking the ominous butt truffle up off the ground. You still have to bend down and pluck the bag from your pooch's posterior, though, so there really isn't much difference. Aside from the fact, of course, that everyone's going to be staring at you and wondering why the heck you're walking a dog with a plastic bag attached to its butt like it's some sort of super strange doggy diaper. What a disaster. Too useless to handle. You know when your phone starts ringing and you just think, damn, not again. Now I'm going to have to bring my hand all the way up to my head. No, I don't think I know the feeling either. But Israeli entrepreneur Yonatan Asolin obviously thought this was a very real issue when he tried to crowdfund the phone handle back in 2014. The $13 device, and I use the word device extremely liberally, attached to your smartphone like a handle. And that's it. It lets you hold your phone slightly differently at the cost of carrying it around and becoming its own cumbersome chore. Jonathan disagrees, of course, arguing that the carefully curated device went through over 32 prototypes and countless redesigns to become the perfect product. Really? 32 prototypes led to this plastic stick? If you're still somehow unconvinced about the uselessness of this thing, one of the main selling points of the phone handle is that it lets you discover the web without staring at your fingers. Ah, yes, another big problem for phone users everywhere solved. Not. If you hadn't guessed, the product failed its Kickstarter goal, so I'm afraid you can't snag yourself one. Why don't you go spend the $13 on something more worthwhile instead? Like, well, literally anything else. Marty McWhy. Back in 2019, people started spotting strange, googly-eyed robots roaming supermarkets around the USA. These mysterious robots were made even odder by the fact that they seemed to do, well, nothing. Which is unfortunate because they cost the stores they're in a whopping $35,000 each. But why would anyone want to spend so much money on something that does so little? Well, they're not supposed to be so useless. The robots, named Marty, are actually designed to patrol the aisles checking for spills and other hazards that might slip you up. The thing is, they don't clean them, they just stand beside them making a lot of annoying noises, trying to signal someone who can. And by the time an assistant actually arrives, there's a good chance someone would have found the spillage anyway. What's more, Marty doesn't differentiate between so-called hazards and hilariously will treat everything he comes across as one, no matter how small.
Caution, hazard detected.
Good job, Marty. That's a real dangerous-looking, bottle cap. The only slip-up here was buying this thing in the first place. Absolutely juiceless. Everybody loves fresh squeezed fruit juice. Doug Evans, the inventor of the Juicero home juicing machine, knew this all too well when he put his product on the market back in 2016. Apparently, he didn't know how to make something useful, though. With its huge $700 price tag, you'd expect this thing to be able to magic juice out of thin air or something. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. In fact, after first breaking the bank buying the machine, you then had to fork out on special Juicero brand fruit bags. And for all this money, the juicer wouldn't even work unless it was connected to the internet. But ultimately, none of this was why Juicero failed. Oh no. It failed because you didn't even need the machine to get the juice. After people found out you could just squeeze the bags by hand, the entire product became the laughingstock of the internet. Though, I wouldn't be laughing if I bought this $700 brick. Unsurprisingly, the company went bust, and Juicero became nothing more than a bad memory. As for Doug Evans, his dreams were crushed harder than any fruit could ever be. Pee and play. Personally, I don't like golf. Crazy golf, sure, but actual golf seems like a lot of walking and not much playing. If I did play, though, I definitely wouldn't buy the Euro Club. This golf club, invented in 2008 by urologist and avid golfer Floyd Seskin, seeks to remedy a common issue amongst golfers, needing to pee halfway through a game. Generally, golf courses don't have toilets at every hole, and relieving yourself in a bush is apparently out of the question. So, Seskin made his club with a very special alteration. It's hollow, so you can, well, you've probably guessed.
It contains a special reservoir built into the grip to relieve yourself. The Euro Club comes with a special towel to keep your privacy.
Oh, yes, because nobody's going to suspect a thing if you're stood there with a towel like that.
And it appears to everyone that you're just checking out your club.
Yeah, sure it does. The weirdly thick top section that literally no normal club has wouldn't possibly give anything away. This super embarrassing piece of kit originally went on sale for a pricey $50, but unfortunately for no one, it's since been taken off the market. I can't think why. Too stylish, maybe? Well, there's nothing more stylish than being armed with an almighty arsenal of mind-blowing facts, though, so hit those like and subscribe buttons and prepare to never be bored again. Right, back to business. Honorable mentions. Before we take a look at one of the most ridiculously useless inventions ever, I've got some gold for you that didn't quite make the cut. First up, see if you can guess what this is used for. Confused? Okay, it's a hood with an elasticated tube where your eyes are, so that when you're on your computer or phone, nobody else can see what you're up to. Ah, yes, because nothing says inconspicuous like covering your face and phone with a giant featureless tube. And for all the budding photographers out there, what do you think of this crazy contraption? A hat with a full 360-degree camera setup makes the GoPro look like a children's toy. Or at least it would if they weren't low-quality disposable cameras and you didn't have to control them with that weird metal harmonica. One thing we can agree definitely isn't useless, though, is water. However, I can't say the same for, diet water. This ludicrous fad, spearheaded by drinks manufacturer Sapporo, claims that peptides in the water actively target fat cells and help you lose weight. Of course, there's no evidence to actually support this, and it's really nothing more than a marketing ploy to prey on the body conscious. Luckily, I prefer water zero over diet water anyway. But that's enough of honorable mentions, so without further ado, man milk. After years of living in near constant amazement, you might think I'd be tired by now, right? But then along comes something like the father's nursing assistant, and it becomes clear that I'll never stop being amazed. This wearable device resembles a woman's chest and is made to strap onto the father of a baby. Milk sits in one bosom and passes through a rubber nipple on the other. With fake booby equipped, old Daddy-O doesn't have to feel left out of his lack of mammary glands and can feed the baby too. If that sounds ridiculous to you, it's because it is. Breastfeeding openly is still bizarrely taboo in many countries, although this gadget seems Pretty counterintuitive in changing that opinion. I mean, the idea that a man wearing this out in public is more acceptable than a woman using her breasts for their intended purpose is, in a word, insane. Of course, some mothers can't or simply don't want to breastfeed. But I bet they'd rather bottle feed their babies than have their husbands don an ugly set of fake boobs and walk around like the Terminator's embarrassing mom. To make the whole thing worse, the device syncs up to dad's smartphone and sends data about feeding sessions to it. What? As well as being pointless, I don't think many parents would be happy about their newborn baby's data being uploaded to the internet. Yeah, this really wasn't the breast idea, was it? Whew, I think I've lost enough brain cells for one day. That's all the useless inventions you're getting. Have you come across anything so useless it could be featured in the next video? Hey, let me know down in the comments below. And thanks for watching.